Hi, this is Frank Kern, and I'm the creator of a marketing system called Mass Control that really did bring in $23.8 million in a 24-hour period. So you're thinking, yeah, that really happened. You know, it sounds like a stretch. It sounds like typical marketing hype, right? I'm with you. So yes, it happened, but like anything, there's a little bit of a catch to the story, and there's probably some stuff you've never been told before because everyone wants to make such a big deal out of this in an effort to sell you something. So let me set the record straight right now. First of all, only $1 million of that money was actually mine. And all the money came in over the course of 4 separate launches. All right, so there were 4 separate launches whose cumulative orders over a combined 24-hour period made up a total of $23.8 million. Now, the third major thing that you need to know is this was not easy at all. Okay, lots of times when people like to tell you the story of this kind of stuff, they like to say, "Oh, we did this in our sleep" or whatever. It wasn't easy. It was absolutely no walk in the park. It's an easier process for me now that I've done it over 4 different times in a row, but it wasn't easy getting to this point. Another thing you need to know is during the course of all of these launches, or almost all of them, things got ugly. Every single time, things got ugly. And I'd like to give you a 33-page report that actually tells you the true story of exactly what happened with each of these 4 big launches. I'll get to that in a minute, but there's another thing you need to know. That is, we had a secret weapon. I call the secret weapon mass control. You've probably heard whispers of mass control happening over the past year or so. Basically, here's the deal about it. It's a marketing system I created that's based on black ops psychology that lets you sell lots of stuff without blatantly selling things to people. And I just use the word black ops there because it sounds cool. There's nothing really sneaky or shady about mass control at all. As a matter of fact, the point of mass control is that it positions you as the good guy and not as a pushy salesman, because nobody wants to hang out with a pushy salesman, and certainly nobody wants to be a pushy salesman, right? And the whole system relies on you giving away cool stuff to people instead of you holding your hand out and saying, "Hey, give me some money." So it's really all about you giving, and this makes people like you and see you as a friend. So here's kind of the big secret, or I should say one of many big secrets about mass control. It uses a sneaky little tactic that I call IDT. IDT stands for Implicit Decision Triggers. So here's what that's all about. Mass control basically just helps people decide for themselves that they want to buy your stuff. And this is what I call an implicit decision. And that's diametrically opposed to the normal method, which is you trying to convince people of something. So let's talk about implicit versus explicit decision making in the buying process, because this is extremely important to the way everything works. And if you get this, you're going to make a lot more money starting right now. Implicit means that I'm deciding that I want something. That decision is made implicitly by me. I'm making the decision. Okay. Explicitly means that someone else is convincing me that I want something. Now, which one do you think is going to be a more powerful decision? Of course, it's going to be the implicit one, right? When I make the decision myself, it's a more powerful decision. Well, why is that? Well, first of all, when we decide something for ourselves, we will defend that position. We'll defend that decision. We own that, right? We made the conclusion ourselves. It's my decision. I'm right in this. I'm sticking with it. That's human nature 101, right? And when you use mass control, you simply take advantage of that human nature because you help people decide for themselves that they want your stuff. Now, let's look at the old way, the traditional way that you've been sold to and that other people sell things. If someone convinces us of something, we're almost always going to have the subconscious desire to prove them wrong, right? And this is so true. And it's true for everybody, not just you, not just me. The entire world has this. If somebody convinces me of something, possibly against my will, so if I'm a skeptic and then someone turns me into a believer or whatever, that little seed of skepticism is always going to be there. And that subconscious desire to prove yourself right is always going to be there, right? And that's because when you start out as a skeptic, you've already made that implicit decision, haven't you? I don't believe this. I'm making the implicit decision that I don't believe this. Therefore, you're going to defend that decision forever, whether subconsciously or not. So if you try to convince somebody of something, they're always going to have that subconscious desire to prove you wrong. And you're basically fighting against nature, right? So when you're doing the convincing, you're fighting. And it's hard. It's conflict. Convince, conflict. They actually sound the same almost. And this is no fun. But when people decide for themselves, then you're onto something. So what I'm telling you right now is one tiny little facet of mass control, but it's a very powerful strategy you can really start using immediately. So I'll kind of give you the overview of how it all works, right? First of all, you give people cool stuff, okay? You give people cool stuff that helps them that they can use. Now, based on the cool stuff that you give them, they decide for themselves that they want to do business with you. They, in turn, ask you to sell stuff to them. You agree, and therefore you sell stuff to them. This sounds almost stupid, right? You're probably thinking to yourself, all right, Frank, I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. It's so blatantly obvious on the surface, but very, very few people do it. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, this sounds blatantly obvious and nobody does it, so what's the deal, you know? Does it work, right? Well, let me tell you about those 4 big launches that I was involved in and wrote all the copy for and used mass control on that I mentioned earlier. First time I tested this whole theory out, it was a test that I ran, and it was for serializer seminars that I conducted. These were $10,000 per head seminars that I sold. I only sold 100 seats to them. Bottom line is they sold out in a combined total of 54 minutes. It made me $1 million. I had no affiliates. I had a tiny list of only 8,000 people in there. I don't know why I put a dollar sign in front of the 8,000 thing there, but I'm not going to go and edit the slides. $8,000 people, all right? So I guess I had another disadvantage, right? I can't even type correctly. Let's talk about the second time I tested this. It was a dating launch that I worked on for my friend Neil Strauss. He launched a product called the Annihilation Method. That was extremely difficult for me, but it worked. I'll give you the whole story of what happened in that launch in the report that I prepared for you. But the bottom line is that launch did $1.4 million in 4 hours. We had no affiliates. We began with a very tiny list, and we didn't even have a product. And that was just the beginning of the disadvantages that we had during that launch. But it worked, okay? Third test, one you've probably heard a lot about, a little launch they call StomperNet. That one did $18.3 million in a 24-hour period, and it is known as the biggest launch in the history of our industry, right? Well, I'm the guy that wrote all the launch copy for that and even wrote most of the sales letter for it, as a matter of fact. So did it work then? Yeah, worked pretty good. Fourth test I did was one called Pipeline Profits, you might have heard of. In comparison to StomperNet, now Pipeline Profits isn't going to look that cool, right? Because we only did $3.1 million in 24 hours. Okay, so did it work? Yeah, it worked pretty good. Look at all these big launches, right? But you're probably repeating a little question in your mind right now, which is this. Who cares, right? What do these big launches have to do with you? You probably want to know is, does this work for regular people? Does it work if you're not launching something, right? And by the way, speaking of launching, that's only a tiny portion of what mass control is all about, really. This isn't a launching system. I just happen to use it in these launches to achieve phenomenal success. So another question is, really the most important question, will it work for regular people, that is to say non-gurus, who aren't doing a big launch? Well, let's see. On October 29th, I launched mass control to my small list, and it sold out in 20 minutes. And then when I say launch, I really can't even use the term launch because I just sent out some emails. I just gave people some free stuff, some free videos, and then said, hey, I'm going to sell this. I hope you buy it, right? And my list is 8,500 people now. Okay, so it sold out in 20 minutes, 8,500 people. The cost was $2,997 up front. I didn't offer a payment plan. I did not have any affiliates. So, yeah, again, the who cares question, right? Probably what you really want to know is what happened to the students, okay? What were their results? Well, I'll tell you. Student number one pulled in over $12,130 from just 2,000 unique visitors, and he was selling to a list of broke people. Swear to God, this guy's target market is actually broke people. Don't even get me started on the market selection here with this dude. But either way, he did great, right? I'm very proud of this. $12,130, just 2,000 unique visitors. I have a question for you. Do you think with what you know about marketing, as long as you've been in the game, you can generate 2,000 unique visitors? I think you can, right? Made this guy 12 grand selling to broke people. Imagine what would have happened if he was selling to people with money, okay? I like the guy. I'm not trying to pick on him. He's cool. Student number two pulled in over $11,640 selling a dating CD. Okay, not bad. Student number three pulls in $6,535 following only half of the steps I gave him because he was in a rush. All right, no problem. Still pretty good result. Student number four pulls in $5,213 giving away free stuff and selling a cheap ebook about candy. Yes, candy. All right, now get this. Those are pretty good results. Now, they're nothing in comparison to these multi-million-dollar gigantic launches, right? But they're pretty good results, and these are all normal, regular people. Now, here's the kicker to the whole thing. The best past, you can tell I'm an excellent typist. The best part, I should say, is that they did this in under a week, okay? I gave them some information in their first week of studying the mass control system for me, and they did this in under a week. This was week one. They're selling cheap products in niche markets. Check this out. There were no launches. This wasn't a big launch at all. These are people who were just tweaking some stuff and press and go. I said, hey, do this. They said, okay. These are the results they had, all right? There were no affiliates. My favorite part of this is they just use one little tiny mass control strategy out of a lot that has to do with the mass control system. So here's what all this has to do with you, right? I want to give you some free stuff because I would like you to find value in what I have to teach you with mass control, and I would like you to be my client. I'll just go right ahead and say it. You know, we've all been in this business long enough to know that I'm probably going to try to sell something. So what I want to do is I'd like to give you, first of all, a 33-page report that actually tells you the real story behind this whole $23.8 million in 24 hours deal. I'm the guy that wrote the copy and orchestrated lots of stuff. I'd say the vast majority of everything in these big launches you've heard about. And I'd like to give you the insider story of what really happened with that stuff, because in some cases it got ugly. In some cases we made some classically stupid mistakes, and I'll tell you about them so you don't make them yourselves. I'd also like to give you a 90-minute video where you can see mass control in action. Yes, 90 minutes, non-stop pure content where I actually go over a mass control campaign and show you, here's where I'm using mass control. Here's why I said what I did. Here's why this worked, all right? Just giving it to you for free. I also want to give you interviews with the students I just told you about, so you can get their take on whether or not this whole mass control thing works. Now, granted, these interviews are all going to be positive, right? I'm not going to interview somebody that says mass control sucks. Well, listen, you can make up your own mind over whether you like this stuff. I'm not going to try to push it down your throat. Then, this is my favorite thing, actually. I'd like to give you a proven template you can steal so you can make money by giving stuff away. Yes, giving away free stuff can actually money, and it can actually make you money, and you can start using this right now. I'd like to give you all of that stuff in exchange for your name and email address. Sounds like a pretty good deal, right? So fill out your name and email address in the form below. When you hit on submit, I'll send you the 33-page report by email, and I'll also give you a surprise video that you can watch immediately after you hit submit. I know that you're going to absolutely love this surprise video. So go ahead, fill that stuff out, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for watching. Bye.